Welcome, my friends. Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Monday, May 9th. We are here live. We're opening the phone lines right now. It is a free-for-all kind of day. Nothing going on today, just whatever happens to be on your mind. So pick up the phone and join us. 855-950-3835 is the number to join us. Those lines are open now. We're going to get to those calls here in just a couple minutes. Line up your calls quickly, and we'll get to them right after this. I want to talk about the economy today. I think we're going to be talking about the economy for a long time. You should be focused on the economy. It's everything right now. And we're starting to see a lot of indicators that will probably tell us where this economy is going. It's looking pretty obvious now, though, that we're going to suffer some sort of a setback. I think it'll be a full-blown recession. There are still people that think this is just a bump in the road and we might come out of it. There have been a couple times in the last couple of years we thought it was time, and we were wrong. We could be wrong again this time, but I don't think so. Here's one of the other things I find that's different this time is that normally when the economy is like this, we're talking about the economy itself. I mean, it's in the news and everybody's talking about it. We're setting all kinds of records, not in good ways, but there's not a lot of talk about the economy. I wonder what our mainstream media, if this is intentional. I think it is. I don't know why. Maybe because they don't like to talk about bad news with this administration. But our media, honestly, has become so irresponsible that if you want to know what the news is, you need to really go out and look for it. You need to read or listen to multiple sources, then try to verify as much as you can through other sources. You know, I remember a time when you just, whatever channel you watched, you were probably getting a reasonable facsimile of the news. Now, that's just not the case. I mean, I've said one of the things you can do that'll make you a little crazy, watch CNN for a couple hours, then flip to Fox for a couple hours, then flip back to CNN. It'll make you a little crazy. You'd think there must be two different countries we're talking about here. The news isn't even close anymore. So whatever channel you watch, whatever channel you believe, whatever source you believe, I would corroborate it as much as possible with other sources. Right now, the economy should be all over the news, and it's really not. A couple mentions of it here and there. The stock market is cratering, really, and we barely hear about it. Now, I know we started at such high levels with the stock market this year, but this has been the worst year the stock market has had in a long time. We know about inflation. That is the one thing that we hear about, not as much as we should, though. Not in my opinion. I think we should be hearing about this, talking a lot more about it. Here's the real key to watch, and this will determine a lot of things. That's the interest rate. So for the last decade, we've had pretty low interest rates, really low interest rates at some point. For the most part, there was a time our interest rate was kind of really stuck around zero. That's the Fed rate. Then the banks tack on a little because they have to make money when they loan money. But mortgages just recently were still under 3%. Now they're approaching 6%. That happened fast. The Fed controls the Fed interest rate. That's the money banks borrow, and that's the price the bank has to pay to borrow the money. Then the bank tacks on a little bit and loans it to you and I, consumers or businesses. and they make a little money. So the Fed rate is kind of the base rate. That's what determines what the banks are going to have to borrow money at, what rate. So when the Fed rate goes up, all the other rates go up with it. Mortgage rates are already up. Now, what will happen at some point is these high interest rates will start to bring down inflation. That's the point of it. That is why the Fed is doing this. But I think they were a little late to the party. They probably should have been doing this last year. One of the things we've talked about a little bit and we're kind of watching for is what happened in the early 80s. Now, I wish I remembered that time better, and I wish I would have understood the economy better in politics. I did go through that time. I was just getting out of high school, and it was one of the worst job markets you could imagine. I remember people filling out 20, 30, 40 applications, and back then you didn't do it online. You had to drive around and go places in person and fill out applications and do job interviews, and you could do an awful lot of that and not get a job, not doing anything. I mean, at that point, just coming out of high school, people would do or were willing to do just about anything. A lot of my friends at the time, I was in Northeast Ohio, and that part of the country got hit hard in the 80s. Steel mills and auto plants and a lot of other things in that area got hit pretty hard. The one part of the country that was doing well, and this should sound familiar, the oil and gas industry. Oil and gas prices were way up because inflation was up. So a lot of my friends at the time got out of high school, moved to Texas and Oklahoma. There was a lot of work down there. Prices were through the roof. Mortgage rates hit, boy, if I remember right, they were right around the 15% mark. That's just insane. Thinking about buying a house with interest rates anywhere near 10%, much less over that, 15% mortgages. Well, what that will do is bring the housing market back down. See, all these inflated markets, trucks, most people have to borrow money to buy a truck or trailer. Most people have to borrow money to buy a house or a car. Well, all of those prices are so inflated. But now if you inflate the cost of borrowing the money to buy those things, they become unaffordable for many people. That is what eventually will bring those prices down. We're already starting to see it a little bit. I'm seeing some posts about trucks at auction starting to sell cheaper than they were. That may be the first crack in the armor here. Real estate. I'm kind of keeping an eye on real estate, mostly just in my area right now. I don't watch national prices a lot, although with all the reading I do, it's hard not to see that the real estate market is still pretty hot. I was thinking that maybe it would start to cool down, and it will. What you may still have out there right now, you may still have some cash buyers. And if you've got cash buyers, then the mortgage rate doesn't matter. And they come in and try to pick up some of these bargains as the market starts to retreat. It's not happening everywhere, though, that's for sure. I thought we'd start keeping an eye on it because in the last several years, I've been moving my money out of the market and into real estate in this area. And that doesn't mean that that's the best thing to do right now. It just means where I am in my investment time and where I am physically in the country, that real estate around here seems to me like a good investment. We've been buying some real estate. But again, what we bought just 2 years ago, I thought it was overpriced. I really did. I remember coming on the air and explaining why I was buying it, even though I thought it was overpriced. And the reason was I'm in an area that really does have a limited inventory. And that's fairly unusual. Most places in the country, if there isn't a house on the market you're looking for right now, there will be. I'm in an area where there's just not a lot of anything. So buying it when I thought it was overpriced, and it turns out it wasn't. Everything we bought 2 years ago is worth more now. I don't know how long that's going to last. When mortgage rates, I would say when they get to 7, people really, really stop buying, or they buy a lot less property, smaller properties, cheaper properties. The thing that you want to be looking at right now, you want to be in cash. I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit, but I'm going to take a call. And if you want to jump in, phone lines are open. If you dial right now, I promise you'll get through. Let's go to Missouri. John, welcome to the program.
Appreciate it.
What's on your mind today?
Hey, okay. I'm in your book. I got everything done up to where everything's paid off except for my vehicle. I got 3 to 6 months worth of expenses put back for all my stuff. I've been listening to you and you're talking about this downfall. Is this a good time, or should I just keep money back and wait till see what the economy does to become an owner-operator again?
Well, let's talk about the again part. Tell me the last time you were an owner-operator.
Okay, well, all right. I went to Schneider. I was leased onto them. I leased a truck to them, and I had health issues, heart murmur and all that, came off the road, and I had to come back as a Combi driver. And it seems like, for whatever reason, when I'm a company driver, I don't have no health issues. But when I try to do and better myself and become an owner-operator or lease another truck or whatever, it falls apart within about 3 to 6 months. I don't understand it.
Well, I want you to think about that for a little bit, because you need to understand that. I mean, I could tell you what the answer is, but I'd rather you come to the conclusion on your own.
I don't know. I mean, I sometimes I think it's better to stay as a company driver than it is to become a lease, because I don't never have no problems. I don't know unless I don't know.
Well, and why do you listen to the show quite a bit? I would imagine, right?
I did when I was when I was on Sirius XM, yeah.
Okay,
and I just found y'all out. So
okay, good. Well, I'm glad you're back. If you've been listening the last 2 years, there's one topic around health I've been talking about a lot. I've said the word over and over. I've worked on protocols for it. I've developed strategies to help make it better. Anything ringing a bell here?
No, it's not right offhand. No, it's been a while.
Okay.
Like I said, I just got back. I've been off work for 6 months at home. So
okay. So let me try another way. What is something in your life that would change quite a bit because you now own a business? And think of health issues. What could owning a business add? There we go. Yes. I mean, this seems like a big, giant red flag to me. When you become an owner-operator, when you get into business, your health deteriorates, things don't go well, then you go back to being an employee and it goes away. That's a pretty big red flag.
Okay.
Not everybody's cut out to be in business. Now, let's talk about another possibility, though. And that is, I keep hearing the word sign another lease. Why would we even think that way?
Well, I'm not going to, but I'm looking at for what the lease would be compared to what the rates is right now. Is there going to be much difference? Is it going to be about the same price?
Price for what?
For the trucks. Like the trucks are so high right now compared to what the leases are about the same.
Okay, so let's say they're the same. And it's a hard comparison to make, but let's say they're the same. Let's say you're going to pay about the same. Why would you lease?
Oh, that's a good question. I really don't know. I guess maybe because I'm thinking it's got warranties on it compared to buying a used one and don't have much warranty or less warranty than what a brand new one is. But you're going to...
Again, let's take a step back. Why is it that you can afford a newer truck with warranty on a lease, but you can't afford that if you go buy it yourself?
Right now, I don't have the down payment, but that's why I'm starting to put money. That's why I'm gonna put money back.
But that's a real clue. If you don't have money, that means you're not ready to start a business. That's the biggest problem with leases. It's not that they're all horrible. Most are, but not all of them. Some of them have some pretty decent terms on them I could live with. The problem is, though, why would I ever sign a lease? Why don't I just go buy my own truck? I can just go through a whole list of downsides to leasing. Tons of them. And I can't think of many upsides. So when somebody says, what's the only way I can get into business? Well, that's a clue. That's a giant red flag that you're not ready to be in business. And if you are, it makes 10 times more sense just to go buy your own truck. Leasing is just, there's just not much good I can say about it. Honestly, I've been speaking out against these things for decades now. But here might be the other thing that I was trying to get to. It's entirely possible that you could make a good business owner. Right now, it doesn't look like it because every time you go into business, you get sick and stressed and things go wrong. So, but maybe there's a reason. And I think we were just talking about the reason. You got into business and you weren't ready. You weren't ready financially. You weren't ready mentally. You weren't ready really in any way. And that is really, really stressful. When you try to run a business and you don't have any options, well, I have to lease. It's all I can afford. That's stressful alone. I really, 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 did I say really? Like to have options. I don't like to be stuck with one way of doing things, and if this doesn't work, well, you're out of luck. I mean, just the fact that you and I are talking here right now. I lost a 15-year contract. It was easy before. I used to just come in, push a button, Sirius did the rest of the work. I just talked. If I wouldn't have had plan B, if I wouldn't have had other options, if we wouldn't have taken the time years ago to build out some infrastructure, if we wouldn't have been, really strict and stringent with our money when things were good, we might not be able to be on the air the way we are right now. And if this didn't work, guess what? I have plan C and plan D. And I have an idea of what plan E would be. That's one of the ways being in business is stressful. A lot of things can go wrong. You can lose a lot of money. One of the ways to make it less stressful is to do it right so that you have options. So here's what I would recommend. How much you make roughly, if you want to share it, how much are you making right now as a company driver? I think I lost him. It looks like I did. Well, here's what I would say. Don't give up on your idea just because you didn't succeed the first time or the second time or whatever it was and you got sick and you got stressed. You don't have to give up on it. It's still a possibility, but you need to learn how to do it right. Because when you're not doing it right, it is really stressful. So one of the things that I'm looking at, a couple of years back, I can't remember the last year I did it, 2017, 2018, maybe, I guess it's more than a couple now. One of the things that I did, the book that I wrote about becoming an owner-operator, stop holding the steering wheel and start driving your business. We turned that book into an online course. Now, you can go take that course right now, and I recommend you do. You can take it as a self-paced course. It's at Let's Truck University, which is learn.letstruck.com. And I have several courses there about getting into business. Honestly, right now, I'd recommend taking them all. In those courses, I recommend books to listen to on business. So take the courses, take the book recommendations, listen to the books. Take this time right now where it's not a good time to get into business and use it to get yourself prepared to go into business. And if you do it right, it's a lot less stressful. Clearly, there can still be a lot of stress to running a business, especially in the beginning. But I can almost say it never really gets much easier. You always have risk, no matter how big you get, too. You know, I used to think, well, when you get to a certain point and you've got so much money, there's no risk. Well, there's always risk. There are all kinds of different risks in business. I know we make it the American dream. We talk about what a great thing it is. A lot of people would like to own their own business. Most people really shouldn't. And you see that. That's why we have such a high failure rate. I'm okay with that too. I mean, if you don't know whether you should or not, get prepared and give it a shot. My program, the book, the first chapter, and it's a long section actually, is all about trying to help you make up your mind about whether you are ready to do it or not. One of the things I'll go back to, I got off on a rabbit hole there, was a couple of years ago, I actually took that course, and the course exists right now. You can go take it on your own pace. You take it yourself, all the materials there. You can download things. There's audio files to listen to while you're driving. It's all there. You can take it at your own pace. I used to do it as a class, and I think we taught it over 13 weeks. So we would get together once a week on a video conference. I would present the material in that chapter, and then you'd have the ability to ask any questions you wanted, and I would actually give you some assignments for the week, and then we'd get back together the next week, and we'd go over, answer questions, go through the material. We did it over a 13-week time period, and it was a success. People loved it. Now, it's a huge time commitment for me, and one of the reasons I stopped was because I really felt like we were in a market where it wasn't a good time to get started. And that was hard for me to say. I've said for almost 3 decades, the economy and the market don't have much to do with it. It's whether or not you're ready. This was the first time in all that time where I've said, no, the market matters this time. The market is too screwed up to get into business. Hey, I just realized I looked down. I had a bunch of calls I was going to get to. They're gone. I've got plenty I could talk about today, but if you want to jump in, now is your chance. 855-950-3835. We have lines open. So I've said that this market is screwy enough that it's not a good time to get in. Truck prices are too high. Fuel prices are too high. The rates are really dropping pretty steadily. And it's hard to see when any of this is going to change. That's the problem right now. We do know that interest rates are going to go up. That's not a good thing. A lot of times your first year in business, you do need to borrow money to get through that first year, and borrowing money is going to get expensive. And right now it looks like everything's going to stay expensive for a while. But now would be the time to get prepared. It's actually this could be a huge advantage if you're thinking about getting into business. Because if you can convince yourself, or I can convince you, that this is a lousy time, but it's a good time to get prepared. See, a lot of times when the market was really hot and you find a truck and somebody says, yes, we'll finance you, you want to jump right into business because you don't want to miss out on those opportunities. And we saw a lot of that happening over the last decade. And unfortunately, when people get into business in a market like that, they don't really have a plan. They rushed in. They don't understand business. They're doing okay because rates were so good, fuel prices were so low. It was hard not to do good. But they don't really know how to run a business. Well, now that urgency is gone. There's no big hurry right now. In fact, it's the opposite. You don't want to be in business right now. Too much is out of whack. Too much is out of balance. At some point, we'll reach the bottom. We don't always know when we're at the bottom, but we have a pretty good idea. We're nowhere near there, by the way. We're not even close. That's really what we're waiting for. When you get to the bottom, then it can be time to look for those opportunities and get back into business. That's really what we're waiting for this time. So when we start to get closer to that place, when we start to get to where it looks like we are at the bottom and things are going to start climbing back out, I will probably start doing those classes again. Right now, I don't want to do them because, honestly, I don't want to encourage anybody to get into business. But I would recommend you go take the course. It's fairly inexpensive when you take it on your own. I don't remember the price when I do them, a couple hundred maybe, when I do the class itself. But this would be the ideal time to go take that course and start to get prepared. Like I said, there's lots of things in there that will help you get prepared. There's lots of book recommendations in there. So take this time and start getting ready. Start planning your business. Start taking actual steps towards getting into business. And then you can just wait till it's time to pull the trigger and you won't be in a hurry. It's a really, really good way of doing it. All right. I'm going to take some phone calls. I'm going to go to South Dakota. Jamie, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's on your mind today?
Here. Well, I bought a new truck. I bought a new Mack Anthem, and they didn't build it right. I ended up with a light front end and too much wheelbase. Is there anything a guy can do are there any products out there to help close that gap?
Say that again. What's it? Tell me about the configuration.
It's a 6x4, 233-inch wheelbase with a 12.5 front. So when I get the trailer where it would ride nice and be aerodynamic, I'm, 13.6 on the front instead of 12.5.
Okay. Yeah. So what make and model is this truck?
Mack Anthem.
And is there anything we can, I guess not, if the axle's just too light and we try to get it closer. What kind of trailer do you pull?
Reefer.
And have you measured the gap? How big's the gap?
It's 39 inches.
Okay. Yeah, we're losing some fuel economy there. I don't know. I'm sure you have cab extenders already, correct?
Yes.
Air tabs?
Back of that. They're on order.
Okay. I mean, that's the one simple, inexpensive product that actually helps and it does work. It's not a fix-all for, really big gaps, but it definitely helps clean up that air a little bit. They're inexpensive. They usually pay for themselves pretty quick. Almost every other device I've seen hit the market, and I have watched a lot of them. Several companies over the years have contacted me about helping them market products for this. I've seen things that go on the tractor. I've seen things that go on the trailer. I've seen things that move. I've seen things that deploy at speeds. I've just never seen much of anything stick. And to know that, all you have to do is look around. I mean, you're looking at trucks every day. Do you see much that's really working in that gap?
I guess I wasn't paying attention because on my old truck it was I was able to get it to a reasonable
Right.
distance.
Right. No, I like I say, I wish there was more out there. There have been attempts, and I've actually seen some things that I thought worked really well, but like I said, nothing seems to stick. It's actually easier to modify the trailer somewhat to help with that issue. One of the best devices that I remember actually mounted to the trailer and then extended forward in motion and almost closed up the gap completely. The issue there we've talked about before, that might be a great product for owner-operators who own their own trailer. That's a fairly small market. Fleets have a hard time with products like this because their cost triples because they usually have 3-to-1 trailers to tractors. So if they're going to put an aerodynamic device on the trailer, it usually costs them 3 times more than putting it on their tractors, just because they have 3 times more trailers. So we don't see as much being developed for trailers because it is a harder sell. And traditionally, fleets have not bought these products. And these are big, expensive products to try to design and engineer and troubleshoot and get them right. And there's just doesn't seem to be a big enough market out there for it yet. So, I'd throw some air tabs on it, get it up as tight as you can, without messing up your weights. And I know that's pretty challenging. And then I'd focus everywhere else that you might be able to make improvements for fuel mileage. I'm not really sure any cost-effective way of fixing this.
Okay. You have time for one more?
Sure, go ahead.
So, like I said, brand new truck. I've got 2,000 miles on it now. Is there a reason why the truck might be going through a lot of depth early on?
How much have you tracked it by the mile?
No, I track more by the day on that. I could get, with my old Volvo, I could get to LA and back to South Dakota on one tank of depth.
Okay,
and I burned
got
a
it.
tank and a half already, and I'm not even to LA.
Okay. So what was the year of the last truck?
16.
Okay. There are reasons we could consume more DEF. Usually if it's significant and you're talking about an amount that does seem significant. Now we're comparing 2 totally different trucks. That's always challenging. There could be something else going on here. I don't have an answer for you other than to say I would keep watching this and asking or testing until I found an answer. Because usually if it's using more DEF than it should be, it's likely that it could be because the engine is burning dirtier than it should be. And that's something we would want to address pretty quickly before we start fouling up emissions.
Great. Okay.
Are you part of Trucking Tribe?
I am.
Yeah, reach out to Joel on there. He's so tied into Volvo, Mac, that whole platform, that it's kind of like Mike Beckett with alignments. He's usually the first one to know when something new shows up or there's this little problem that's just unique to this year, this spec, or just in case there's something I might be missing. I would reach out to, do you know how to tag somebody on the site?
I can figure it out.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. When you're putting in a post, you might, explain what your question is, and then you type the @ symbol. And when you type the @ symbol, a list of names comes up. And if you start typing in Joel, and then you can even skip to, M, and you'll see his name will come right up to the top. You just click on it. He'll get notified that, somebody's asking him a question. So I would reach out to him. He may have some other ideas for you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Texas this time. Fred, welcome to the program.
Morning, Kevin. How you doing?
Good. What's on your mind today?
Well, I had a question. I started going back local here about half a year ago, and doing some LTL work and home every night, all that stuff. My biggest drawback is driving in traffic and getting stressed out and all that. I was wondering if the Garmin watch that you have on your website there, does that have any kind of like alert if your heart rate goes up, so you kind of like self-trigger or anything like that? It's just difficult for me to kind of get wound up a little bit. So
yeah, you can set all kinds of alerts based on things like that. You don't have to. One of the things I like about this watch over a lot of other wearables, it's got a big enough screen that I can access almost all of the data I want to see right on my watch. Now, if I want to get a better look at it or get graphs or history, I can open the app and then I can really see a lot. But this is the watch by far, and I've tested dozens of wearables. This is the one that I like for that reason, that I can see a lot of what's happening right on the screen. I don't have to mess with the phone. So, and then you can set those alerts based on some of those parameters. One of the things I'll tell you that I've discovered, and I discovered it by wearing the watch and having access to that instant stress number, is I realized why our traditional approach or even our holistic approach to stress hasn't been working well for the last couple of years. And I've actually talked with other practitioners. Everybody struggles with this. They've been working with people and getting them healthy, and all of a sudden, even the people they had worked with for years weren't as healthy as they were. They were starting to see new issues. And then people who came to them new seemed to be more difficult to help. We noticed that with our discovery calls and our one-on-ones. And we finally realized stress has changed. Stress in this country has gotten really to a point we've never seen before for a lot of reasons. The news, politics, COVID, lockdowns, mandates, we could go on and on and on. It's been a stressful time. And what we've learned, why, we all immediately started talking about things like meditation, mindfulness, taking walks, out in nature and getting away from the stress. With all of those techniques are a way to get away from the stress. And that's what we all started helping people with. And it wasn't working that well. And I was experiencing it with people I was working with. I was talking to other practitioners. They were experiencing it. So that's when I decided to just really try to learn everything I could about this and develop a protocol. And what I figured out was that getting away from the stress can only help so much. Part of, and the best analogy I have here is if you wanted to go run a marathon, you wouldn't avoid all exercise, would you?
No, sir.
And if we want to be able to deal with stress, the way to do it is not by avoiding all stress. We just get weaker. Just like if we don't go exercise, the longer we were to try that strategy of running a marathon by not doing any exercise, the longer we did it, the worse it would get, right?
Right. Yes, sir.
But that's what we keep doing with stress. We know it's there. And we think, okay, I need to take a day off. I need to relax. I need to meditate. I need to go do something fun. And it feels better in the moment. But then what we noticed was immediately upon being introduced to that stress again, people fell apart. And it's affecting their health. I had a caller earlier. Every time he gets into business, his health deteriorates. Yeah, that's stress.
Right.
So what we figured out, just like if I want to run a marathon, I need to go run. I need to go make my body stronger. Now, when it comes time for the marathon, I may take the last couple of days off and get away from all of that, but I can't do that forever. I can't do that as a strategy. So the same thing here. We had to develop ways to make your body stronger against stress. So the strategy really isn't to avoid it. The strategy is to improve our body's ability to handle it. And we had to go figure out how to do that because nobody ever really talked about that. There's a thing called eustress, and it's a type of stress that actually strengthens your body against stress. Another term I've heard is hormetic stress. So what we do is we stress the body in a very specific way, and it's kind of like working out our stress muscle. So our stress muscles get stronger and stronger. Then we can still say, hey, you know what? I need a break. I'm going to go meditate today. I'm going to go hang out in the park. I'm going to get away from stress. That's fine, but it can't be your only strategy. You've got to do these things that build your stress muscle, and then you'll start to notice, wow, look, I'm in this really stressful situation, and yet it's not affecting me hardly at all. Just like, if I run 3 miles every day, pretty soon running 3 miles isn't that hard at all. So the 4 that I came up with, there are a lot of ways of doing this. The 4 that I came up with that were the easiest to do on the road for a driver and took the least amount of time. They are the Wim Hof breathing and cold exposure, cold showers or cold plunges. Those 2 are basically free. You can do those anytime you want. Doesn't cost anything. Now, I will say sometimes it's hard to find a cold shower on the road, but it can certainly be done. Then the infrared sauna blanket is an excellent way. And again, I went with the sauna blanket because it's like a sleeping bag. You can take it in your truck with you. It runs off an inverter. I've tested it on batteries and inverters, and it works. And that has other benefits, detox, all kinds of things. And then a short duration, high intensity workout. And when I say short duration, I mean 10 minutes, 3 or 4 times a week. That's it. Not an hour and a half on a treadmill. And I really prefer resistance training over cardio training. So you could do high intensity wind sprints, and it would help. But I think there are far more benefits to high intensity resistance training. That's why we partnered with X3 for the X3 bar, because again, you can carry that in the truck. You can do your 10-minute workout easy. So with those 4 things, what we're finding is when people do those consistently.
I'll look into that infrared sauna then, and the X3 bar also, see if that'll.
Yeah, and then since you have the watch,
work on me a little bit too.
Yeah, since you have the watch, you'll be able to track all this yourself. You'll be able to watch your body battery. You'll see days where you start at 100 right now, and you're down by 5, down to 5 by the end of the day. Well, that tells me, 1, you've had a very stressful day, and 2, you're not really ready to handle that much stress. We shouldn't end every day with our body battery at 0. Once in a while, maybe it just lets you know you really worked hard today. But most of the time, I'd like to finish the day above half. I'd like to be over 50. And when I was doing this stress protocol, I was getting to that point. Now, I let it all slide while I was on the road, so I have to get back into it myself. But it really works. And like I said, you'll be able to measure it and watch it right on the watch. Oh, I think I lost that call. All right, well, I'm going to take another one. We're going to go to North Carolina. I'm not sure what keeps happening to the calls when I'm talking to them. That's a couple we lost today. That's unusual. Joe.
I hope you don't drop me, Kevin.
Well,
yes,
we'll try.
Kevin.
We'll try not to. But if we do call back, we still have a little time. What's on your mind today?
First, I got to thank you, business coach, because whether or not you know it, for the 8 years that I've been in trucking, going on 8 years now, I've listened to you and followed some of your advice, took your owner-operator course, and, kind of fine-tuned my business and have had the opportunity to run it during down times. Now, my first mistake was leasing the truck when I got into trucking, but I flipped that to a lease purchase, and last year I was up to 5 trucks, 3 of which were paid for.
Excellent.
Unloaded some of those trucks. Yeah, so, I mean, it worked for me. The lease purchase did. And you look at my numbers when I had my second truck in operation for like a year, and lease purchase. And you told me, you said this is an exception, but keep doing what you're doing. So, but last year I sold off 3 trucks because of the crazy pricing that's out there. Right, down
Good
to
for
2
you.
trucks. Yeah, well. Yeah, so I mean, $210,000 across 17 with 800,000, and 18, and 218. So I'm going to get to my question in a minute. So what that leaves me with today is I still have a truck and an amazing driver leased on to this carrier that I have access to trucks. So I ordered a new truck to come in this year that I'm going to put this kid into. An amazing young man. I mean, just a rock star trucker, and wants to stay there. So to maintain that connection. So his current 2020 truck will be paid for in a few more weeks. And I've got a 2018 sitting in front of my house right now that's been paid for a while. I've kind of been part-time driving it since COVID and the election. I went off the road once the election happened, followed by COVID. I stopped OCR.
Okay.
But I'm trying to decide whether or not to sell this 18 on my driveway before the prices dip, okay? Because what I want to do is I don't want to leave the state anymore. And I've learned that there is excellent oversized and overdimensional freight out of the ports of North Carolina that never leave the state, from Wilmington to, Charlotte or Fayetteville. There's money to be made there. I recently bought a low-boy step-deck trailer that a cousin of mine used for many years to haul heavy military equipment, oversized stuff through Landstar. So I'm about to refurb that trailer, and it's like, do I sell this red one and put the 18 and put another $100,000 in the bank before truck prices dip? Use my 2020 to do this local work and keep the second truck in prime. So yeah, I think I'm trying to decide whether or not to scale down to 2 trucks. I guess from 3.
Yeah, I think you've already kind of figured out the answer for yourself. You're just looking for a little verification. I think you've got this right. You're not in a hurry. You don't need this truck today to make revenue week after week after week. You've put yourself in a good financial position so that this is what I've been talking about for years. There are going to be opportunities. You've already taken advantage of them. You sold equipment at prices that we've never seen before. Just crazy stuff. And you have the opportunity to sell one more. You've got a truck to go do this stuff when you want, but then ultimately you could also, I would think in 6 months from now, there are going to be some killer deals on the market. At any point when those prices come back down, you could go find the perfect truck for what you're doing and probably get it at a really, really good price.
Yeah, this is what I needed to hear. The thing I've been struggling with, Kevin, with that truck, it's like I'm pretty sure I know a gentleman with a dealership that bought 2 of the other 3 that if I texted right now would probably come up here tomorrow from Florida to buy it. But it's like, well, if I keep this asset, that asset could potentially make me, $100,000 in the next year. If I go through the headache of finding another driver and dealing with all of that crap. But what I want to do is retire to the state of North Carolina, and I think I can do that with once I get the trailer. It's going to take some work. I have a goal of getting it on the road by August because the deck's got to be ripped, going to blast it, coat it, basically restore it.
Yeah, excellent. So absolutely, you've put yourself. Now, here's the other thing I like about decisions like this, and this is what I mean by giving yourself options. When you give yourself so many options like you have, then even when you have big decisions to make, there's almost no wrong answer. That's what I like.
Right.
You could do either. We could flip a coin right now. You and I could play tic-tac-toe to see because either decision, you're going to be fine. Now, let's compare that to the caller earlier who gets into business, gets sick. We know that's a big red flag. He's not handling the stress well.
Right.
He isn't to the point yet where he had any options. If he wanted to get back into business, he would have to sign a lease. That's right. You could make huge mistakes at that point. I talked about this the other day.
Well, most people do.
Exactly.
Most people do, Kevin.
Right.
Yeah.
But once you get to the point where you've been making good decisions, you've been doing the right thing, you sacrifice to put money aside, you pay attention to what the market's doing, you end up in a place where even if we make mistakes, the results aren't catastrophic.
Right, exactly. We can correct and learn from those mistakes. Another thing that I got from you, because I was hard-headed, before you hammered that into me. So thank you for that, business coach. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think I'm going to sell it because my heart's not in getting in it and driving it. That's what I've been doing recently. Is I went from North Carolina down to Florida because it's crazy. Reefer rates out of Florida, even for contract freight, have been acceptable. I've avoided Florida for years, but I with this truck, I've been going out for 5 to 7 days, but go from here to Miami and bounce around in Florida, South Georgia, and come back home. But even that, I'm kind of, I think I'm over that for now.
Yeah.
I need to get my equipment moved, get some equipment ready, and transition into the next adventure, which will be flatbedding for equipment for short haul.
There you go.
Yeah.
No,
So.
These are the calls I love. You know, I want to help everybody, and I get frustrated when somebody's in a position where I can't really help them other than say, you have to improve the position you're in. You know, it's...
Right. Yeah. Well...
but I don't know what else to do when somebody's in that position.
Well, I was thinking about your caller earlier, and I was like, wow, I'm listening to this too. And this is somebody that, like I said, leased a truck, lease purchase, have company drivers with a mega carrier, kind of understand the lingo and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, I was scared to tell this guy, he has no business trying to lease it. Why do you want to run a business? You really have no business doing that. Clearly, all signs from the universe are pointing towards you having a business in trucking is a bad idea for your health. And what's more important than our health?
Right. And again, I always want to look at, most people shouldn't be in business, but why not try it? We found some signs that didn't work well, but even then I can look and say, well, it's clear why your business was so stressful. You had, in a lease purchase, you have almost zero control. And I will tell you, nothing stresses me out more than not having personal control over something. If any part of my life is now controlled by outside forces other than myself, that is outrageously stressful for me. I think that's probably stressful for most people. They don't understand how often they put themselves in those positions by not making, the right financial decisions or the right business decisions. When you get to that place where there's not much in your control, what do you do with the lease purchase when the truck you've got ends up in the shop every other week?
Well, if you're with a good carrier, you might get enough money to cover your hotel bills. If you lease a brand new truck, okay,
right?
That's what you're going to get. But I was just thinking, it's interesting you say that, because I took myself back to 7 years ago when I would come home for a week, and that lease truck sat in the same spot my paid-for truck is sitting now, right? And the whole week that I was home, and I'd run for 8-9 weeks at a time before I took a week off, I'm thinking to myself, that truck is costing me $1,500 with tags, payment tags, everything else, to sit there, $1,500, which means when I go back out the following week, I've got to bust my ass and do it again. It takes a dedicated kind of person. And, a company drivers are a beautiful thing. If you have a good, loyal, good quality driver, it's just, some people don't need to be in business. Probably only 20% of the population needs to be in business. There has enough sense or wherewithal to be in business, I think. Yeah.
And is willing to, and even those, I know I struggled a lot my first 5 years in business. Struggles that were stressful and mistakes that could have put me out of business. I was close a couple times. And it was a lot of stress.
Sure. I've experienced that.
Yeah. I was one of the lucky ones. I was young. I had enough. I had more energy than I had brains. I had more energy than I had money. And I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to give up. I was told several times. At one point, I was told, you are exactly why they created bankruptcy laws. You need to just bail and start over. Go get a job somewhere, because you're not going to make it out of this. And I looked at that and said, well, of course he's telling me that. He's a bankruptcy attorney. That's how he makes money if I file bankruptcy. So I thought, why would I voluntarily give up and quit? I'm going to keep doing this until somebody shows up at my door and takes this stuff away from me.
Right. Exactly.
And that's what I did. I'm not stopping. Yeah. I've already created the mess. I'm already so deep in debt. If I file bankruptcy now, or I try for 2 or 3 or 4 more months and I file a slightly bigger bankruptcy, is it really going to matter? But if I quit now, if I say, I believe these guys, I'm just going to throw in the towel, I would have wondered the rest of my life if I could have saved that. And I did save it. Took me about 4 years to dig out of that hole. But I tell you, and
Wow.
You know this because you mentioned it. I learned more during that time than I've learned in the entire 30 years I've been in business.
Right, the failures. If you can learn from them, a lot of people can't. But if you can, I mean, and you know what else I learned from you? Ready, shoot, aim. So I just needed confirmation to shoot this morning to sell this truck. So thank you for that. But I got a question for you. Back during those stressful times, how was your health? What were you doing for diet back then, and how were you feeling physically?
Oh, awful. And I'm talking about some of the stress started in my 20s. I bought my first truck when I was 22. I had 11 trucks, the brokerage, and a service truck that we had put together. I bought a panel van and put, oil change equipment in it and truck wash equipment so I could run around. And because my trucks, we tried to keep them busy, keep them on the road. They were scattered all over the place. It was a horrible business model. I just had trucks running everywhere. I was working like 20 hours a day trying to keep up with it all. I had this service truck. I had 11 trucks. We were brokering freight, and I was going broke. And I was working 20 hours a day. It's when I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in my 20s. And I'm sure that was all stress related. And my diet was slightly better than the standard American diet, only because I liked to cook a lot. It wasn't that I was eating a really good, clean diet, but it at least helped that I didn't eat out a lot. I didn't eat a lot of prepackaged food. I made most of my food from scratch. But I was gaining weight. I was, suffering all kinds of joint pain and digestive issues. And, that's a little young to feel like you were falling apart physically. And that's why I say at 58, I now feel better than I did at 28 in a lot of ways.
Right. Well, that's good. You've come a long way, Kevin. Yeah, you have. And I mean, you're one of my business heroes. Like I said, when I tell people an idea or something that I'm doing, I was like, I get this from my business coach.
Yeah, well,
because there's been years of coaching there.
Yeah. And I've said many, many times, there is very, very little that I do or talk about or teach that's actually an original thought that came from my head. I mean, I might be able to reach in and find a couple things I've developed over the years, but for the most part, I got it all from somebody else, from a book, from a seminar. From
you've taken the time.
Right. Yeah. I wasn't smart enough.
Go to seminars and study these concepts and identify, some very core things that if people follow them, like the business decision with, ready, shoot, aim. If you follow those things, it's good. So, thank you for spreading these ideas of other great-minded people, because it helps. I know my nutrition's improved from listening to you, and I shop the outside perimeter at least and don't do a lot of processed stuff.
There you go.
I have done keto, tried carnivore and fasting and stuff. Yeah, so it's been I've enjoyed the journey so far. So
excellent, great stuff. Hey,
this year it's going to be flatbedding. Besides flatbedding, so I might be calling in for some technical questions with that Is he Australian? The guy that calls in that does all the flatbedding?
He's a Kiwi. New Zealand.
Kiwi. Oh, New Zealand. Okay.
Don't they call them Kiwis? I think they do.
I don't know. I don't know.
You know what?
That's asking next time you talk to him.
Yeah, if they do, it's probably no longer politically correct, but who knows?
Right. Oh, well. Screw that PC.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Joe. Hey, great stuff. Thanks for calling. Those are the kind of stories I look forward to when times get tough. I love the fact that there are people out there, they were doing the right things. And you know what I hear different? I swear I can hear this. In the first caller earlier, and I'm glad he called, and I'm glad we have a plan for him, it's almost like I could hear the stress. In this call, it's the exact opposite. You hear that kind of mellow, easygoing, yeah, I could do this or I could do that. I'm really hoping a lot of people have done the right things leading up to this, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities. I'm going to grab one more call here. We're going to go to California. Juan, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
Good. What's on your mind today?
All right, Kevin. So I got basically it's an investment question, but it's more of a decision question I needed your help with. So my wife and I we've gotten ourselves thankfully in a pretty good place financially. We got about a $40,000 surplus in our budget annually, and we got about 55 grand in the bank. And we're both pretty healthy. We're in 46 and 48. However, we're not homeowners yet, nor am I invested in the market. Currently, we live in California, and we thought about relocating, but we got granddaughters there, and our kids are basically grown and living out there. But I was looking at the savings if I were to buy out of state, say Texas or Tennessee or somewhere else. When it comes to owning a home, the difference of about $300,000 with interest over 30 years. If I took that money and invested it in the market, and just say the S&P 500 we can talk about, with just a conservative 8% rate, in that 30-year term, we're talking, $2 million. If I were to get a property that was lower cost, at least half the price of what I could get in California. The question is that reason enough to move out of the state of California? We only got 20 to 30 years reasonably to invest.
Yeah, it can absolutely be. Well, it is a reason. Let's just say that. That is a reason. We would put that in the left-hand column of why we would move out of California, and that's a big one. And I'm so glad that you did all those numbers. Most people don't even think that not only does the initial purchase of the house cost me more because of the market here, that means I have to borrow more money, which means my total cost of ownership goes way up, like you said, $300,000. And property taxes are usually higher. Maintenance on properties in markets like that is always higher. So you were looking at the big picture, which is awesome. So that is the number one reason to put in the left-hand column. Now, you could go through other reasons. And I would do this. I would keep filling in that left-hand column. What are the other reasons it makes sense for us to move out of California? Then you have to start working on the right-hand column. And we know we have a big one there, grandkids. We want to see them. We want to spend time with them. So now, if we have all of these facts, is there a place where we could buy a property that would save us significant amounts of money, but if we plan properly, would still allow us to spend a lot of time with grandkids?
Yeah, just try to find a balance. I get you.
Yeah, and one of the ways that it helps is this two-column thing. Get everything down in these two columns you possibly can, and then things start to present themselves. You start to see some new ideas, new ways you could do this. But clearly, you're good at this. You've already got a great start.
I appreciate it. One more quick question, if you have time.
Sure, go ahead.
So, I just finished up a book. It's called The Psychology of Money, and the author is Morgan Housel. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name right, but in it, it's about different types of investment strategies. And he finalizes the book on his personal strategy. And he, like you, believes in index funds and basically, managing expenses and investing over long term, basically. So one of the great things about a very good book is that most of the time will compel you to act, right?
Yes.
And this book definitely has me on the edge, right? I really want to start, immediately, but there's still that psychological component that is just the fact that you're going to start dumping money into a market that's kind of volatile right now. I know maybe I should wait a little bit to see what happens, but my question is, how do you get past the emotional part of investing now for a future benefit when in the short term I might not see the gains?
Yeah, you won't see the gains. And in a volatile time like this, it's not unusual to see losses. No matter how much we pay attention, no matter how much we study. One of the things I'm telling people right now is don't make any investments right now. Put as much money as you can into cash. Remember, I was talking about the 80s when we had 15% mortgages. We also had 10% CDs. Certificates of deposit. That is a guaranteed 10% return with no chance of loss, period. None. We may get back to that place again. So, this cash that I'm sitting on, and we converted some things to cash, and we're watching the markets, and we'll have lots of opportunities. Do I think the S&P 500 may make a short-term run? Do I think real estate may hit the bottom and I can put cash back into real estate? But then there's another option. If CDs hit 10% again, you can damn well bet I'm going to have a bunch of money in CDs. It's happened once in my lifetime that you could get a return like that with no risk. And if and we're looking like we might be in a situation for it to happen again. If it does, I'm not going to miss out on it this time.
Sure. All right, that helps me quite a bit. I appreciate it. So I'm going to just hold off for now and just kind of pay attention to what happens in the next few months, and then I'm sure I'll call you back and go from there.
Excellent. I'll look forward to it.
All right, Kevin. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. All right, we're going to wrap it up today. It's kind of a quick day. We will be back tomorrow with the Power Hour, Wednesday with Destination Health, Thursday with Rolling Toe. Friday, we'll try another version of another episode of Trucking Technology and Efficiency. I may throw in a book review this week and another episode of The Pit. We will see. That's what I've got in the works right now. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey. I'm Kevin Rutherford.